Thank you so much for being here. We are Nerds of the West, and we are giving you our thoughts on Hidden Leaders with the Forgotten Legends expansion. This is a Kickstarter preview stream we're doing. We've done a how to play it playthrough, and now the review. We do have to say, obviously, it's a Kickstarter preview. We got this game earlier, we were sent it, but we will be honest, we will be insightful. We will try and give you our thoughts on this game so that you can make up your mind as to whether or not you need to add this expansion to the game, or if you want to check out the game itself. We, the people that are here, my name is Tom. We have a Chris.
Hi.
We have a Beck.
Yo.
And we have a Lachlan.
Hello.
And we have just played 3 games, one with each of the different parts of this expansion. There are 3 modules. We're going to talk about all the 3 modules, what we like about each, whether or not we think you need to play with them all, and compare it to the base game, all the thoughts. And then at the very end, we're going to rank it on our Nerds of the West ranking list, where we compare games not based on if one game is better than another, because how do you compare apples to oranges, but just if given the opportunity, what we would prefer to play. So let's start where I always like to, with the art. Now, there's not a lot of specific art for the expansion that the base game didn't have. I'd say the artifacts are the only thing that they're really doing different, but I love the artwork in this game.
And a face down card as well.
Yeah, love the style. It's
that?
very, very colourful.
Of the main deck that Chris has.
Hey, oh yeah.
So let's have a look at the artifact art.
No.
Because that's the only new art. There are new cards, obviously, but they are mostly mostly just remaking what has already been remade, just with bigger people. Artifacts are cute. There's not much to complain about there.
I mean, like, I think there's only so much you can do with adding in objects to a game like this. Like, they've obviously tried to keep it within the style, but because this game is so heavily focused on the characters and the people in it, I think it's very difficult to have objects that kind of fit into a similar style.
When you already have the style set up for the characters, trying to, adapt that to objects, I think they've done a good job.
Like, I don't think it's out of place.
Yeah.
Like, it's good that they're purple because they are unique to all of the other cards in the game. It's not possible to kind of confuse it with anyone's tableau. And the fact that it's got, you know, how many artifact uses you've got, so on and so forth. So, art style on those, I think, works well.
Honestly, you can't fault the art on this game.
No.
The base game, we're talking about the expansion here today, but like the base game's art is perfect. It's probably the best art direction of a game that we've played this year. Besides, I think Northgard would be my second pick.
Yeah, it's just so unique with just so many nice little details and the art has character.
Yeah.
It's colourful, the colours mean something, it's easy, it's legible, and all the icons are in its own particular style.
Good.
And then,
choice.
they added the artifacts in and the golems and such, and it's just like, well, we need to throw in another colour just so that we could do it, and they've gone with purple and the brown to, work outside of the base colours that they had.
I'm curious if they're going to do more expansions for this. I don't know how much more design space they have for it, because at the moment you have a yellow box and a purple box, and it's a bit of a weird choice. Not a bad choice, but just a bit of a weird one. So I wonder if there is another colour that they're looking to work with.
Yeah,
the
but
box art's cool.
They're royal colours. So you've got gold for the for royal for the base game, and then you've got purple, which is another thing. So maybe the next one will be red, for example. If we're looking at the
regal
royal
red. Yeah. For
So
sure.
we played with 4 players today. We played at the standard game length, which is to finish with 7 cards in front of someone face up. It does recommend the first time you play to play to 6. And when we played with 5 and 6 players, it's even less. I think it's 5 cards face up. I don't think this is a game that needs to be played at 5 and 6 players. I think it's a game that suffers from Kickstarteritis, where they need to add extra stuff to the game to make it more appealing, but the actual game itself suffers because of it.
Yeah, fair.
100%. Like, playing at 4 players is so much better than playing at 6. The first time I played it, we played it with maximum players, because you'd think that being as a push, as a tug of war style of thing, that having more factions would actually influence the board a lot more. But then you end up with what happened in the last round on a greater scale, where you have like 2 people who are really trying for one faction, and then 4 people who are trying for the last faction, right? You've got 4 green people, because there's more factions out, so it can shift in the dynamic of the direction that the game is going. Whereas if you've got fewer people, then it's like, cool, maybe only one more person is joined with your faction. So the balancing act of those 2 factions.
You can actually lie to people and trick people a lot more.
what a bloody
with 6 people. Thank you very much. With 5 or 6 people, you can't lie as much, and if you get the cards that don't help you, you've got to wait for 5 more rounds, and then it's gone even further in the other way, and you're just out of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as well, it's like you can go, cool, this person's playing this faction, this person's playing this faction, this person's playing this faction. So you can see where you kind of sit in that and then try and teeter towards working with that. I think that 4 players is the perfect number for this game.
And I've been telling you that for years.
I don't think I'd want to play this with 5 or 6 people, just because, like, there were times playing where I'm just, and obviously the way that we play games is going to be different to how you guys play games, because you'll be sitting around a table and you won't need to tell everybody what you're playing, and you won't have to show it on a screen and wait for someone to be able to read it out and then put it out. Like, the way that you guys play at home is going to be much faster, but still, like, even when we were moving along quite quickly, it just meant that if you had played your turn, you were still done until it was your turn again. And a big thing that I have is it's very difficult for me to plan moves when things potentially change. Like if someone takes a card I'm planning on using, if someone intends on like killing a card of mine, something like that. So for games like these, I tend to have an idea of what I want to do, but beyond that, I won't be waiting until my next turn, but planning while I'm doing so. So it means that I'm just sitting here and just waiting.
It's also in the base game, there's not a lot of player interaction. It's just the indirectness of moving everything around here. You might steal a card every now and then, but I felt once they added all the Guardian cards and all the artifacts, you're directly interacting with everyone else at the table so much more often.
So, base game aside then, let's talk about the first expansion, the Golems.
That we played.
Guardians.
The Guardians, sorry.
My issue is I've never played base game.
Yeah.
I've only ever played it with the expansions.
So I'll throw into that. We are going to talk about Guardians first. The corruption deck, the corruption expansion, barely changes the game. I reckon. Like I think it's a great addition, but it does barely change the game. So that is as close to base game as you can kind of consider right now.
Yeah.
So Guardians,
So Guardians,
bigger, more powerful creatures. An extra faction to consider.
An extra faction to consider, which was interesting to say the least. I thought there was a little bit of a balancing act there that it suffered from, was because they added the extra faction in. The only faction that could hamper the Guardian faction was the Black faction, or the Undead faction, because they had the ability to kill or bury the Guardian cards, which is how you would reduce the Guardian on the board. So it was very hard that it's like the other faction would have to play really fast to get ahead of the Guardian and just be like, boom, it's a red game, no repeats. Like red's taking this out with the win.
But then you got the red Guardian person who's like, let's go.
Yeah, and so I thought like it was good, and the game that we did play was super close, and we almost managed to keep like it ahead, but it was.
It came down to the bluffing game that Tom played, and the idea that there may not have been a Guardian player on the board.
Yeah.
And it ended with Tom winning because he played the fact that he was a Guardian close to the vest. And like it was tense.
I love that that's an option.
It was tense for sure, but I'm with Lachlan in the sense that like it wasn't easy to bring a Guardian back.
Yeah.
I almost feel that because there aren't as many Guardian cards, but I almost feel that if you are going to play one, they shouldn't move forward 2 spaces. They should move forward 1 because there were still enough that they were moving forward frequently.
But in that regard, I think that I would like to play the Guardian another time, 2 or 3 times more, just to get a better grasp on it. But I think that it's like, I think they have done a reasonable job of balancing it. I think it was Chris that actually pushed the Guardian to being overpowered. Because if there was no Guardian, it was an incredible game. We were all on the edge of our seats. We were like, there's no Guardian at the table. There's the possibility that there isn't a Guardian on the table, which everyone was like, it's base game.
Well,
but
there is only the random chance of the Guardians being in. Like, you're not replacing cards, you're adding additional. And even then, it's random as to which Guardians are getting placed in. So it's just another chance for the game to be pushed in a certain direction.
And with 4 players, that unknown is what makes the game so good, is that you don't know what people are, and if there is more chance of things being outside, then you're just using the information that is on the table. So I think that the Guardian. Chris pushed it in Tom's direction, and Tom was kind
I
of
was able
helping
to
it.
capitalize on it a little bit here and there.
Tom was capitalizing on it.
We saw the
and-
Guardian cards be a lot more influential in the other games that we played because the Guardian cards themselves are more powerful. The Guardian cards aren't capped at 3 movement like the other ones are. The Guardians can just blap things real hard. The Guardian cards also a lot more stealing cards from other people. So there's a lot of... I just love that they've gotten more space for that kind of interaction to happen and to kind of push the power level of the game a
Yeah.
little bit. But I worry it was pushed a little bit too far, but it was very enjoyable.
How did you find it, Chris?
Yeah.
On the contrary, I think the Guardian was fairly balanced. Like you made a mention of, it was mostly me that was playing the Guardian cards. And I think the whole idea about the Guardian advancing 2 spaces per time you use a card is that the point is you're supposed to manage when you play those cards. So,
Yeah.
for example, in the game we played where we did discover that Tom was a Guardian at the end and he kept it very close to his chest, it was probably up to us to not play the cards, right, that would advance the Guardian, because despite being somewhat powerful, and in a lot of situations, they're just regular, like red or blue or green cards that you want to be playing for your own factions.
Yeah.
It's just another thing that you should have to manage so that way you're not giving a victory to someone who may or may not be a Guardian.
Which is what happened to you, because it's like you were playing them because they were benefiting you with the hopes that there was no Guardian.
Yeah.
And I think that if we played again with the sense that it's like, yeah, these cards are strong, we could all band together and stop this Guardian, because it is a big hindrance. I don't know if it should be like, maybe if you are the Guardian faction, you are only the Guardian faction and not a double, because then you've got the chance of winning.
But then by
you're
doing
really
that,
pigeonholed.
you make them so separate from everybody else, because everybody else in the game is a dual faction.
True. And they can flip at that.
Like you said, I'd like to play the Guardian variant like a couple more times to really get an idea. But personally, I honestly don't think the Guardian was like too OP or anything.
Yeah.
I think that like the way Tom played it was a correct way to play it, right? You don't want anyone to know you are the Guardian, because in a moment's notice, you could probably play one card after the other, and that's equivalent to 4 spaces for the token that you want towards this end of the board.
That's true, but you're also at the luck of the draw. There might not be the cards that you
true.
need, and you have to push your other agenda.
Especially with all the additional cards. Like there is advanced cards and there is the mini queen expansion, and we've got it all in there. So this deck is
A chunky deck.
Stacked.
It's a big boy.
chunky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at
So
that
yeah,
stuff.
overall, I really enjoyed the Guardian expansion. It was a really good game that I enjoyed for that expansion. So I think that has pushed me into saying that the Guardian expansion is good.
Yeah,
Because I
absolutely.
had a good game.
It was a
and
close
not knowing,
game.
and it was super close. And we thought I had won it. Then we thought Beck had won it, and then Tom
Yeah, Tom
comes in at the
snuck
end
in with the
and
victory.
sneaks in,
Yeah.
and we were just like, so
Corruption though.
awesome.
Yeah.
Corruption, I did mention before, so I love that there's the trickery once again, that you don't know what kind of card is token is there, especially because even the ones that aren't changing the faction still show that they're possibly a faction one. I love that it gives those options, and I love that it's a bit random. I think on its own, this isn't a particularly amazing addition. I think it's a nice little adjustment and a nice little way to change up the gameplay that will work really nicely with the other expansions.
Yeah.
I think I probably wouldn't play without it, but if this was the only expansion, I probably wouldn't get it. Like,
Yeah.
it's a weird, like, it's a solid expansion. It
think
changes up the way that you think.
It's an interesting expansion in the sense that it adds like blocks and retaliations. The fact that what you get is entirely random makes me not like it. Like I was gonna say like not fussed about it. I don't like it. It's essentially because like you spend this whole game carefully crafting who's face up, who's face down, what faction they're with, what they might have to do. And then one person's like, and I'm going to take this corruption token that wasn't placed out on purpose but was randomly chosen, so I'm going to take that. And then everybody else has to pick one, and you have to place it down. And all of a sudden, that random element where you've gone and you've like carefully put all of this effort into your party, and you have to be like, this helps me in no way, shape, or form, and I have to put it on something.
But on the flip side, it does the opposite, and it helps you, because that's what happened to me, where it was like I was behind in the undead game, and I got a green, which didn't help me at all, but I could put it on there and I got rid of it at some point, but it like changes the balance of your team to add one to your strength
And that
You can
doesn't
replace
help.
a dud card and
to make it a
help
good
you.
card.
Cool.
That doesn't
if you're
redeem it for
lucky.
me, unfortunately, because it's still a random element, and just it's that random that I'm like, I don't want it anywhere near. Don't want it anywhere near me.
Fair call.
Like it's not like, and you guys may like it. It's just I don't like it, and so yeah.
Any thoughts on it, Chris?
I did like it. I agree that it didn't change the game so drastically that you were playing a different game, and they were a novelty. There are ways you can interact with the tokens. You can scoop something into someone's hand and the token falls off, or you can put them into the tavern and they remain. That was cool.
But then once I pulled that card, it still got discarded anyway.
Yeah, but you might have a card that said, take something directly in, and all of a
And you
sudden
could be
you've got this
hoping,
token.
like, say it had a blue and a black, and you were the blue-black player. You might want that card.
You'd be like, hell
even
yeah,
if
I've
it's
got to go
green.
for it now. So yeah, it was a random element, but there's enough
But it also
interaction.
puts a target on that card's
that I
back,
think-
so if someone tries to
Yeah.
kill it, then possibly you've got the card to back hit them.
The one,
Sure.
the one gripe I have about the tokens, which is more
Yeah.
a superficial thing, everyone picked up on it. When you're drawing from the bag, you can't, suppose you were trying to set the game up and put 2 tokens here face down such that no players know what they are. You can't do that physically sometimes, because while peeking into your hand, you might see the wrong side of the token. You'll have to put it back in. Although minute, it might affect, the statistical
It is,
outcome
you
Like-
just go and get
of
another
the
card.
possible.
but another token, but
You could.
But then, like, it's also like all you need to do is just add a smidge of braille to it. Like literally just
little.
Which is what we
Or
kind
find
of did,
a
which was
different
like
kind of
we
way of
could
doing
we
it.
could determine, because they're just popped icons, that you can feel that the one top has the rounded edge and one has the straight edge. And
Yeah.
because they're small, it was more noticeable than like a larger token.
Or failing that, suppose you shaped them differently, made them cones or beads of a particular shape.
Rounded
so there's
top.
a flat side. The flat side is the face down side, but either the rounded or the beveled top in
like
some
I
way.
understand why they've done it the way they've done it. Like that's totally
punch board.
fine. It's because it's punchboard. There's only so many ways you can do it. It's literally just because looking at it, you have to take those extra seconds to
Yeah.
figure out which way is the way down, because they have to come out face
But it's
down.
it's a 5-second fix. You just draw another one from
Yeah.
the bag and hope that it's.
I would
so-
almost say that you just need like maybe a small deck of cards that just is separate. You just
Cards
shuffle
would be the same.
you just shuffle the cards.
Yeah.
Like they have a back to them. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, it's cute, but nothing game changing. I think my favorite addition was the artifact deck.
Yeah.
Giving everyone additional powers, giving everyone slightly different ways to play, and I loved doing it with the variant with the queens. I think it's unfortunate that was a Kickstarter only expansion, because I love those cards. The actual massive swing towards certain sides was really
That's a
really
emperor,
fun.
which you kept calling the king, and I
the
find
king,
hilarious.
So using your artifacts at the right time to take the chance to get one of these cards in addition to getting the power, I thought was great.
Okay.
Fair.
Okay. It was my least favorite of the expansions.
Do you think if you had had my artifact, you would have had a better time?
Yes, and I think that's my biggest issue with it, is the fact that it's like you dished out a random artifact. You don't get to pick, you don't get 2 to pick 1. They have different number of times that you can use them. So some are 3, some are 2s.
It does actually say to let people choose. If you
Yep.
can't choose, pick at random.
But even so, I feel like it's either they need to be a little bit more balanced, or it's like a market where you could buy them and it's like first in best dress sort of deal. So then that way it's not just like you're getting a shit one, you're getting a good one. Like I think that there wildly influenced the balance of the game more than any of the other expansions.
I wonder if it could do it similar to Chains in Keyforge, not Keyforge, the card game where it's all random. Every one of them would start with 3 tokens, and you would bid on which artifact you want and say, I'll take that one, but only with 2 tokens. And then someone else go, I'll do the same. And then you're going to go, all right,
So
I'll take
fewer
it. With
uses, yeah.
fewer uses.
And like I think
Giving people more strategic choice. But I still really like all the powers that came
I think
with them.
the abilities were cool. I don't like the fact that it's an asymmetrical, unbalanced mess for everyone. The queens I did like. That was very interesting. And the fact that it was surprising how little people managed to get them. And whether or not they would have added more cards into the deck that would allow for more swapping between players. Because they were like hot tickets. They were hot items that
Yeah,
everyone
because
wanted.
you could just have them in the deck and hope that you maybe get the one that works for you. But making it like like multiple people are going for these just fits so well into the theme of multiple people are fighting for the same thing.
I liked it.
Because I was added in kind of at the last minute. Queen of the Streets, is that only added in with the artifact deck?
No, so that is a separate expansion that was in the original Kickstarter.
So what did they add to the game, and how did you get them into your hand if not with artifacts?
These were just other cards that could show up
So they were just in the deck?
in the deck, and you would
Okay.
hope to get the one that worked for your faction.
Right.
By adding them as a variant with the artifact deck, where it's like, all right, instead of just using your artifact, you're using the artifact, and you can get one of these earlier than someone else. Was, I think, a really smart gameplay. They already had the cards there. They knew they were powerful. So
And I thought that was a
work with
good
them.
mechanic of how to gather them,
Yeah.
right? So if you were the first one to fire off your artifact and use the special power,
You could
you would
get it.
have the worst chance at getting a queen. So you had to sort of wait and find your moment.
mean, yeah,
and then
I
if
didn't-
other people were going for queens that you didn't want, then it doesn't matter so much because you don't care. But otherwise, it's like, oh, I better try now. And then obviously, the more cards you flip and you turn out to be wrong, and it's like such a feels bad, or you
I
manage to
only
grab
had-
one, and it's
You guys all had 3 power artifacts, right? And I
I had 2.
two
Yeah,
for
Tom
Tom.
had
I
two.
had 3.
okay. So Tom and I had like 2s, and it was just kind
Yeah,
of like.
Tom had sandal shoes.
And it was just like, I don't know, mine was cool because I could just kill anything from anywhere, but it was just like still felt underwhelming, considering that you guys got 3 guesses at a queen, whereas Tom and I got 2 guesses at a queen, and it was just kind of like we were on that short side of the.
I think it comes back to what Chris is saying though, because you only had 2 and Tom only had 2. It meant that you choosing to use one of your tokens later after everyone else had used a few meant that you had a better chance of getting it, because you're not you have to do economy using your artifacts.
But you could go in and you could just be like, fuck it, I'm going to throw one away now, get my cool ass ability, and get a guess. Get it. They don't get it. They have 2 less guesses.
If you're real lucky.
And you have to do the timing.
So it's another
and I didn't get
chance.
it. I didn't
thing.
like. I got 2, had more chance, still didn't get it.
Yeah, it's the one bit of luck, but I didn't mind that one bit of luck. I like the artifacts. I think they're fun.
Chris,
What do you reckon?
artifacts.
Personally, I would prefer to play a game of Hidden Leaders that's more simple, and the complexity comes from the way that you bounce off one another politically. But I did enjoy the artifacts. It was a fun, cool variant. If given the choice to play this among other variations with different expansions, or maybe with no expansions, I would probably choose to play with different or no expansions.
As someone who managed to use the artifacts in such a way to win, I can say I actually didn't enjoy that round as much as I enjoyed the first round.
okay.
And even the second round to an extent, because like that one, it was like a
Yeah,
win.
corruption.
Whereas I went into that game, and once I got to a certain point, I was like, I'm winning this. Like after the green like shot ahead, I was like, I'm winning this game.
Yeah, for sure.
There's no way that you guys are going to stop me. I think the way that the artifacts interact with how you play the game is good. Like it's adding in a limited resource for you to use that doesn't actually affect how you play the game that much, which is why I did come back to thinking that I was actually using my artifact wrong, because it felt wrong to be taking cards and just putting them into my tableau. Like I don't feel like that was what I was supposed to do, and it's because I was just like green, green, green.
And once you found out that Tom was green as well, it worked for you perfectly.
I mean,
And it
I
was
had
like-
an inkling. Like the last time I used it was just because he took my queen and I wanted her back.
But you get 2 cards, and you can just go, all right, well, one of these is going to benefit me, and if
Yeah.
it doesn't, then I'll
Yeah.
try again with another player.
But yeah, like it was just the way that they added to the game. It felt a little unbalanced.
I cannot decide if I would want to regularly play with all expansions at once, or if it's a, hey, let's change it up this time. Because the game is quick enough, like it's about a half hour to play, that like it's just a slight change on a variation each time. I don't think I think individually they're all really decent expansions, so playing with each one is fine. I just think all of them at once would be a bit much.
Yeah.
But I also think corruption you don't want to do on its own. You want to do that with other ones.
Each expansion focuses on a different core gameplay. So the Guardian focuses on the tug of war, which is the main core gameplay. It adds an extra faction. The corruption focuses on your tableau and your amount of cards that you've got.
And a bit of bluffing.
And a bit of bluffing, right? And then the artifacts is the player interaction. That is the core themes that they interact with. So which one of those would better influence the base game for you, right? Is it the tug of war that you enjoy the most about this game? Is it set collecting that you enjoy most about this game? Or is it the player interaction that you enjoy most about this game that would influence which expansion you would prefer to add at any time?
Yeah, it's an interesting way to look at it.
Again, like I go back to the fact that this is the first time I've played it. I don't think any of these detracted from my experience of the game. I'd actually go so far as to say is this might actually so far be my favorite hidden agenda game.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that.
It's
There are so many that I enjoy, but
because like
this one does
there's
so well.
so many hidden agenda games out there, and I think the only one that comes close to scratching the itch that this one has given me is Secrets.
Yeah.
Because that one, it has activity and things to do and hidden knowledge with all of that, but Secrets is also so chaotic, whereas this one is not that chaotic. You know who you are, you know what you are, and you know what you're aiming to do.
But you
Whether
also
you
have
get
options
there,
for how to get
however
there.
you get there, or if you can get there, is entirely dependent on what other people do, and you may not be able to, but you have the option to switch what you're doing and adjust, and so it means that you can have that hidden agenda side of it without necessarily being totally dead in the water.
I would say that this does the one mechanic that Battlestar Galactica does, but better. And that is the fact that, you know, in Battlestar Galactica, you hit an agenda in it at halfway point, then you get another one so you could flip sides. This goes, this is your team, you're playing both teams. And at any point, you can switch team because that is going to benefit you in the manner. And
Which is
it's
a like
fast
real
and-
like political thing. Like in the you'd be switching to whatever's going to help you the most.
Yeah,
And-
exactly.
And it's
In
like
the real world.
someone is helping you and someone is hindering you, and then you can go, you're helping me, and now you've stopped helping me, and now you're hindering me, and this person's now helping me, and you're hindering me.
And
so
there's no one strategy to help it win. Like every single time we played, everyone adopted a different way to play.
and that is the balance of like what's happening, the card draws, and what people had. So it's like what things are played, and the game develops and changes and flows differently, all in that tug of war that.
And it's so simple as well. Like there are 4 win conditions.
It's weird. It's so simple once you start playing.
Yeah.
Trying to explain the rules to
Yeah.
someone, they're like,
It's
why
hard.
am I getting rid of like drawing back up to 4 cards and then discarding one? And it's like, no, you need that. Without that, you're
Yeah.
totally at the luck of the game, and it would be too long, too.
But then you
unbalanced.
also have the option to just discard up to 3 cards as your
Yeah.
turn as well. You could just be like, okay, see ya.
Yeah. So is that everything?
Where would you rate it?
Where
would
are
you
we
rank
putting it?
What's going on the board? Where are we going to re-rank this at the end of the year once we get Reese and Kai to replay it because they didn't like it also?
Oh, they're not.
No, but we played it at 6 players. So when we played it, we played
yeah.
So this is the expansion, right? But it's so hard not to lean on the base game because it's the expansion only adds a little bit to it, right? It's like which core element do you want to increase, and do you want to just mix it up a little bit because you've played the base game so many times?
So looking at the games that we've played this year, I don't think this can beat out Ark Nova or Dune Imperium. But the closest kind of competitor or thing to compare it to would be Fight the Blight. In terms of like a 15.5-hour party game, easy to teach, simple to pick up with, you know, stuff going on. I really don't know which of the two I would pick out of this. I would definitely play this over Arrakis, Northgard. I still love Libertalia, but in terms of Fight the Blight wins out a little bit for me just because it plays quicker.
So you put it about there.
I'd put it below Fight the Blight, but it's a
Yeah.
tough choice.
I think I'm almost exactly the same as you. Fight the Blight was certainly, it brought just as much fun, and oh god, it's so hard to pick between those two. But yeah, I would absolutely probably put it just about on the same level as Fight the Blight.
I don't have too many games on here that I have played. I think the only 2 games I've played are Northgard and Lost Ruins. Oh, and Last Message. So the thing is, the way that I always rank it is if someone presented me with my highest ranked game on here or the new game, where would I put it? Like, which would I prefer to play?
Or you look at it as like an out of 10, and then we would like gauge and go, this is like a 9 or this is a 10.
Yeah.
And then you can roughly slot it in.
We're not saying a game is objectively good or bad. We're just saying whether we would rather play it.
Yeah,
And
but
that's
how-
how I rank it.
Yeah,
I
that's
rank
fine.
it.
Yeah.
Would
So where
I
would you
rather
put
play
it?
it? So the thing is that if I'm comparing this to Northgard, which is my only other point of reference on this board,
Yep.
the reason why I would pull this game out over Northgard is because it is simple, it's straightforward, it's a deck of cards and a board.
Yeah.
Northgard is you need to have a very big area to play.
Yeah.
Now,
And spare
Northgard
time.
and spare time. Northgard is still a very good game, and I do really, really like it, and I would very much like to play it again soon. However, something that you can just be like, hey, do you want to play Hidden Leaders? We can pull it out and smash that around quickly, and I'd be like, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I would probably put it on par with Northgard, because for me, this is probably a 7 or 8 out of 10 game.
Yeah.
What about you,
Fair.
Lachlan? How much better is this at 4 players?
So much better. And I said that we would talk about it as well. The first time that I played it was at 6 players, and it just doesn't have that same non-information or
Yeah.
unknowns that you do in a 4-player game. In the 4-player game, you are banking on the fact that someone is not something as well, or you can go, he could be, they couldn't be, and that can work in your favor. Like that last game I played, completely not red. No one knew I wasn't red.
Yeah, right.
Whereas if you were playing a 6-player game, it'd be like, is he really not red because I'm like this
Yeah.
person's that and this
Yeah,
person's that,
it'd
and you
more
can
solved.
count the leaders in a higher player game. So it didn't gel as well as me. But coming and revisiting this, playing it with the expansions, was still incredibly enjoyable. I feel like I have to play the base game again just to
Just to give it a
score
shot.
the base game, because like we played it with just the with the expansion, and that's what we're ranking here. But it was still just like phenomenally good. But that's probably just a testament to the base game probably being phenomenally good.
Yeah, it is.
And I now have to
Absolutely.
do everything in my power to convince Racing High that it is so good, because now you have turned me and you've convinced me otherwise. And I think I'd have to put it on par with Fight the Blight. Its art style is fantastic. I cannot fault the art style. I love it. It kind of reminds me of Pathfinder, which is, it's like not really my type of like style, but it's got its character. It's got some sort of like, it's iconic to a degree.
It's unique. It's
unique.
not.
Yeah.
It's unique. It's got character. It's still interesting and detailed. It's
Yeah, everything is fantastic, and the game, even with the expansions, is still fantastic. So I'd say it's next to Fight the Blight.
All right. I think it goes just below
Fight the Blight. But on average, oh, bloody hell. What have you done?
I'm trying to
I
scrape
can't
things
believe
down.
you've done this.
Oh, fuck.
Solid 5 out of 7 game.
5 out of 7.
That's
Strange ranking, but sure.
That's a reference and a half.
Oh, okay.
Well,
I missed
let
it.
us know what you think of this. Let us know when the Kickstarter goes live if you're going to check it out. We appreciate the heck out of every time you guys come and hang out with us on YouTube and Twitch.
I'm lining it up against the black.
We will catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.